You're listening to Sit, Talk, and Listen podcast with your hosts, Payroll Rob and Zadie Bauer.
Everybody in the 313.
Hey, 313? That's 314?
Well, yeah, but that's
Who's that?
8 Mile.
Oh, shouts out to 8 Mile, Detroit, Marshall Mathers, Eminem, the works. Yeah, welcome. It is Sit, Talk, and Listen, episode 28. Today is January 29th, 2025. Xavier, we are here. We are consistent. Some would say more consistent than taxes? I don't know. Never more consistent than taxes.
No,
This is consistency.
There might be no more taxes.
Oh, yeah?
But we'll just get... No, that's not open that.
But this is not a political podcast.
Yeah.
There was never taxes on tips if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. You don't have to... Actually, let me just... We're going on a rabbit hole. We have so much meat on the bone today, and this was not on the dossier.
We didn't put that on the dossier. We weren't going to talk about taxes. We were talking a little bit about your work and some recent stories from the server's table. I think this could be a fun little segue we do each week. Stories from the server table.
Earmuffs.
We talk about your worst experiences of the week, and then maybe we can also talk about your favorite experiences.
Oh, I have two right off the top.
So, boom. We want to let's hear your positive experience first.
Positive. Well, it was one of those so if you are in the service industry long enough, you'd be silly to go in and a lot of people in my work do this. The first hour and a half, which is generally 4 to 5:30 of your night shift
for dinner. Yeah.
And people are this is going to be a bad night. And it's like I've just learned, dude, people are getting home from work. They're not But so on this night, Saturday night. It was one of those nights where people at 4:30 were like, "Oh gosh,
this is going to be the worst. Just cut me now."
By 5:30, we're on an hour and a half wait.
Oh yeah, rocking and rolling.
Now, another thing is you just try to approach just don't get too down or too high throughout the night. That'd be my best advice if you're going into this industry.
That advice translates across so many different things.
There's this guy Adelso, I'm name dropping, and he rubs me the wrong way. I just met him a couple weeks ago. He's getting in with all the hostesses, and
he's that type.
So at one point in the night, I have two tables, both two tops meaning two people at each table.
Yes,
and he has his whole section full. Granted, he's right next to me. Mm-hmm. We have the identical sections, two booths, two tables.
Yeah, same size, but he
has
keeps
6
large
tops,
parties.
while I have two tops.
Yeah.
But I'm I'm not going to pay because we're going to get on a wait no matter what. My section's going to have to fill rather soon. And I have heard from other people there, he tends to get all these big parties, and it's not a coincidence, which that's true, but you can't let that deter you.
Nope. Plug
because
away.
While he has all these 6 tops, I get a 4 top. I approach it the same way. Always do. Trying to be upbeat, and bam, we got us a big one. This guy's wife has this necklace on that looks like it came from Tiffany's.
Oh, yeah. Just sporting the rocks.
Dude, just massive rocks.
Iced out.
He's cool. I'm getting the vibe from him that I can kind of be myself a little looser. Right away, his buddy gets there with another girl, and
she's
says,
decked out too?
She's not, but
she's put together. Comes from some money.
He's like, my friend just got engaged. These two are engaged now.
Let's
I was
go.
we're celebrating.
Yeah, hit them up.
El Presidente Margs, those are $18 a pop.
Yes,
pop,
sir.
pop.
Yep.
Round of those.
Boom, $20, $40, gone.
Round of those is $80-something. 4 of them.
Yeah, I know how to math.
And he says, bring us a round of Don Julio 1942. That is $28 a shot. Basically, the moral of this story is they only got a couple apps. They weren't even eating entrees. Their check was $420.
Yep.
He liked me. $100 tip.
Great.
And
that's wonderful.
And it was less work than it would be to do.
Dude, I will take a table of drinkers over a family any day.
Oh, dude,
that's it.
It was amazing. So the premise of that story is don't get too down because you see that guy running around with his 8 top. You can get a 4 top in there like that. And
so that's a great little anecdote from the week. I like to hear it. You got a good table with the vibes are high, recent engagement, and they take care of you. So that's good. Good on those guys. Thank you to Pair.
And let me just give you a tip as a restaurant goer, too.
A little tippity tip.
If you're going and you're being difficult, you are now my least priority.
You've been marked for less service. I agree.
Because also, most of the time, the people that are being like that, they're not going to tip you.
Yeah, you know.
No matter what you do.
Exactly. You know pretty early on, like, this person's not going to take care of me no matter how good I try to take care of them. So
100%.
People, I always say people get the service they deserve. Like, it's pretty easy to get a read on somebody right away on how they're going to act towards you. And if somebody's going to act like a dick, then guess what? You're going to get the kind of service you deserve.
Yeah. And on the counterpart of that, if you're being really cool and you're being like, you understand, I understand you're busy, this and that, you might be the most understanding table, but you're getting the best service because you're coming in there. And this table was that. Not just because they had the high check, because if somebody has a $40 check, but they're being very understanding, I'm also going to really want them to have a good time.
Yeah, be attentive to their needs and what they have going on and all that kind of stuff.
The check does help, though. If you have a $400 check, I want to make sure that you are happy.
Yeah, I am definitely checking in on those high tabs.
So, yeah, the vibes were high. Just a clutch table. I mean, you're only bringing drinks to them and you make $100 and something for what, 2 hours of work just for that table?
Yeah,
like that is what we get out of bed.
That's the beauty of serving. That's a gorgeous thing right there. But on the flip side of that, now I got to hear what was the most.
So I rubbed a couple people wrong at my work.
The elbows.
I was running food for a coworker of mine. She's a friend. I've known her from my previous time at Rosalitas, Mandy.
Is this a weekend rush?
This is Monday morning.
Ooh, Monday lunch. People are a little irritated on Mondays.
And so this was Monday lunch, but I came in the afternoon, so like it was kind of
a little crossover time.
Crossover. Yeah. There's this group of older ladies.
Yeah.
And I'm there helping run food with this other gentleman. And so I was like, butternut squash tamales. This lady says those are mine. Now, at the same time, the other guy running the food was coming across me to give somebody else their food.
Mm-hmm.
So I take a step back before I hand the tamales.
Yeah.
I take a step back and let him pass me. And she says, I said I had the butternut squash tamales. And I said, well, so I looked at her and I said, I was allowing this guy to pass. So instead of giving her the tamales, I then switched and then said the rest of the food that I had on the tray and gave that all out and made her wait till last.
Dead.
And while she kept telling me the whole time that she had butternut.
I got the butternut squash tamales.
So I got to the back and I said, you have a lady at your table that's a cunt. And Mandy and this guy that were at the table were like,
whoa, they're throwing out the cunt word.
Yeah. So I doubled down and I said, well, yeah, she was being a cunt. And they were like, what? Not cool. They were saying not cool to me. And so then quadruple down.
Yeah.
Not cool is being a cunt.
I'm torn.
So if you don't want me to call you cunt, don't be a cunt. It's a pretty easy.
I understand and agree with that concept, but I am understanding that the cunt is a very cutting word for some folks, and they just don't like to hear it. I don't know.
Well, it's like if you don't like being called a wife beater, maybe don't beat your wife. It's the same concept. If you don't want to be called a cunt,
that's a little bit more.
Don't be a cunt.
It's a little bit more cut and dry of a definition of a wife beater than what's a cunt.
This woman seemed like she just talked down to me, talked with a tonality, like the expectations that I'm going to drop everything. And now that we've identified that this food is yours, I'm going to stop the world and make sure it is in your fucking lap ASAP. No, that is not how it works. I am running the system.
I don't know if you heard her, but she had the 2 butternut squash tamales, and so she was expecting you to put that right in front of her face.
She continuously kept yelling that at me, so I was purposely ignoring her. I was going to make her wait till last.
You needed to hit her with the Barrett Jackman.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, I did. I
hear you. I'll get to you last.
But I was puzzled because that's what I'm saying. In her brain, she couldn't comprehend that I was letting this person pass in front of me who had a fajita in his hand.
Yeah.
That
scorching
is
hot plates.
So he's going to take precedent because, we live in a society where you have to be patient
and have,
you have to
awareness of what's going on around you.
Some other people's needs might be a little more
pressing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she couldn't see that. So I was going to teach her a lesson that she was 75 years overdue.
That's funny. Hey, all right. So, I just need to know, everybody, are you for or against calling somebody a cunt if they're acting like a cunt? Let us know.
And the funny thing is that Mandy later, who had a problem with me using that word, comes back at the end and she said, God, this lady is such a bitch. And I said, who?
See, like that's
and she described her outfit. I said, oh,
interesting. Is it that cunt? That's funny.
Oh, but you could call her a bitch.
That's what I'm saying is like, I think that's the most like accepted,
They're synonymous.
There are synonymous, and I think that's why people would just prefer you use bitch, because they're like, cunt is such a dirty sounding word. Hell, I don't know. They use it in England like it's nothing. So I don't really have a problem with it. But I know that people like just react more to that than they do bitch. So I just know that if I were to hear somebody say it, I'd be like, ooh, somebody's gonna say something.
But see, to me, I think it's too different. Like bitch is like, gosh, this person's bitching about everything. Like, oh, this is wrong. God, stop being a bitch.
So it sounds like you've just demoted your levels more. Like, bitch isn't really that bad, and a cunt's like a bitch. Where a bitch for other people is like the worst that somebody could be acting.
Yeah, I think sometimes bitch can be a good thing. Like, oh, that girl can be a real bitch. But like,
really?
She's standing up for herself,
No. I think they've tried to embrace it like, oh, I'm such a bad bitch. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of, they've diminished the word. I've had to
replace it with another word.
Like if I call you an asshole and you're like, I'm an asshole.
No,
hey,
I used to be a piece of shit. You see this hair? It's pushed back. It's not slicked back.
Well, I'm glad you said that though, because if somebody embraces being an asshole, and you're like, well, you're just a real piece of shit. You got to find where it hurts because you don't want them to embrace it. They are acting in such a way that should not be accepted by society.
Yeah, I hear you. And so bitch has been desensitized enough that we just got to move along and go right on to they're being a cunt if they're just being insufferable.
I think bitch now is more derogatory towards men. That hits harder. You're
bitch made.
You're a fucking bitch, dude.
Maybe.
That hurts. You don't want to be a bitch.
No, you're right, but I don't know that it hurts. I would have to figure out why somebody's calling me a bitch. Most times if somebody's calling me a bitch, it's because they have these weird, perceptions of what manly is. Like, oh, you won't fight me right now? Oh, you're being a bitch. Like, no, I'm just not an asshole or an idiot that needs to get into a fight in public. You know what I mean? Like that's usually where guys are whipping it. Oh, you don't want to fight me right now? You're a bitch. Look at this bitch. You smell bitch in here. Like, oh yeah, great.
I do like that one. I smell bitch in here. That's good.
He said that's good.
I think the East Coast kind of like I like them. Like, oh, what a cocksucker.
Yeah, I like using cocksucker more. I think that should be brought back for derogatory slang.
What if we go way back? Like, what a scallywag.
A scallywag or...
That's a good one. You jive turkey.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I mean, we can bring that back, be a little more family friendly, but right now, these are the words that I feel like people understand.
Are going to get the point across.
It's not... I just want to use a word that's going to get my feelings towards you across, describing them.
Yeah, I get that. It is just funny.
Karen has been desensitized.
That doesn't mean nothing. Yeah, people are like, whatever. It's just
we need to swing the pendulum. I mean, we've really cast away a lot of Karens that probably are very nice people.
Yeah.
My mom's lifelong hairdresser cut my hair for years. Karen, very enjoyable woman. She shouldn't be tied in with all these people.
Yeah. One of the little quiet people in our graduating high school class, Karen Voss, like a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Now we have to go by K.
K Voss.
Not a bad name.
Could be worse.
But yeah, so, stop calling them Karens and start calling them cunts.
Yeah.
I promise you.
It'll be more effective.
Well, whose feelings am I protecting? The woman being a cunt?
Yeah. No, you're protecting your other coworkers that are women that don't want to hear the word.
Can this get flagged?
For what?
I don't know.
Saying cunt?
All right, now if you have kids in the car, you can turn the radio back on.
Yeah. We're such a family podcast. Sometimes we have to throw these little dirty segments in, work a little blue. But those were tales from the server this week. I'm glad. It's just kind of exciting. It's a lot more interesting than the FedEx stories. You just got some asshole drivers. We all deal with those.
I can promise you, yeah, the service industry has definitely got. And it's good to be back, though. My mental health, is really, it's riding high. I'm excited for every day. You know, not that anybody gives a hoot, but that's just where I'm at.
Gives a hoot, and it gives you more time, you know, to do the things you're interested in doing, and that's great.
Hence why we're on episode 6 and
consistency
in January.
5. Yeah,
We've
done 5.
All right, we've done 5 in January. That's good.
Still consistency, brother. Still consistency. So we're talking about your work. What would you say the average demographic of most of your coworkers is?
Average demographic, I would say, is 60% female. Median age 28.
Median age 28, and you said mostly female?
60%. So yeah, mostly, but there's a lot of male servers at Rosalita's.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you think you got more under the age of 28 or more over the age of 28? Just a few older ones that are bringing the average up.
That one.
Okay, so there's more younger folks. What do you think you see? So, all right, let's talk about.
Well, because there's a lot of people. I'd say the most common is between like 25 to
30,
27.
Okay, yeah. So like, you know, sort of out of college, not quite 30 or anything like that. Interesting. So do you find that which coworkers do you think spend most time on their cell phone? It's kind of the question I would like to get to.
That age?
The 25 to 28?
At work,
yeah. And do you think that you notice a difference?
In their dialect, yeah.
Well, not so much the dialect, but between the men and the women of that age of which ones spend more time on their phones.
No.
Yeah. So we got some of these different stats for cell phone usage because we were just kind of talking about, you know.
I'll say this.
Go for it.
I think right now, every time a guy is on their phone, for the most part, I see Snapchat. And, you know, I'm taking glances. I'm not really on my phone at all at work.
Mm-hmm.
But the guys are either on a sports gambling site tracking their bets or they're on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And girls are either like getting their quick TikTok fixes in or they're on Snapchat.
Yeah.
That's my consensus.
So, on average, in America, well, not even, this is just average globally, a person spends about 4.5 hours a day on their phone, on average. Now, this is, you know, across all stats, all people. And in those 4 hours, that adds up to be about 1 day or 6 days per month. So 1 day per week or 6 days per month in time that you've spent on your phone, or approximately 70 days in a year looking at the phone.
70 days of 365 just spent looking at the screen?
Yep.
Wow.
Just an average screen time. And so of the screen time, people check their phone about 52% of the time while they're working. So that was kind of why I was asking how often you see your coworkers checking the phone, because it says that, you know, of the amount of time you're on your phone, half of it's during your work period for a lot of
Now, for
folks.
me, does it count like at the end of the night when I'm like sweeping, doing my section and stuff? I'll use Spotify on my phone to play a podcast with me, or would you count that as phone usage?
It's tough to say. I don't, for the research and the numbers that I have here, I don't know if they counted that in. I think it's technically got to be thought of as using your phone, but you're not like engaged into the phone, if that makes sense. Like, it's just like having a radio on or something. It's the same thing. Like it's giving you some sort of, something's happening with your phone and you're using it, but you're not using it, if that makes sense. Like you would be if you were checking your gambling stats or checking the reels on the Instagrams, all that kind of stuff. It sucks because I kind of already gave you some of these top ones, but can you run down and give me a guess what you think the top 5 countries for cell phone use per day is?
Well, you kind of already told me some.
I told you some of them, but I'll just kind of give a lot of people this.
The Philippines.
Yeah, the Philippines is the highest for use per day on smartphones, averaging at about 5 hours and 20 minutes a day in the Philippines. Brazil, South Africa, Thailand, and Ghana round out our top 5. So you see a lot of these Asian and African countries and South American countries with large populations that are just kind of becoming, industrialized countries in the last 50 years, really getting kind of grabbing hold of these cell phones and getting pulled in and using them a lot. I don't know if you had any thought. Did you assume or think even that those would be the top countries before I told you that they'd be?
I would not have assumed, but it checks out. Like, to me, I think, I don't know if that doesn't mean that they're not all on. Like, I feel like maybe those are parts of the country that don't have access to other electronics as like maybe laptops are more common.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because I feel like for me, a lot of times I'm using my phone as a TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe so, or a lot of them that maybe never had access to a
TV, or
they have access, but not as just
as
at
much.
all times.
Yeah, they can watch 1,000 different things on YouTube as opposed to having 2 or 3 different channels that might come through on the TV or something. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And then we break it down by generation. You have Gen Z. What would you guess average daily screen time for Gen Z? Knowing that just the average in general is 4 hours. Globally, Gen Z average screen time.
6 hours.
Look at you, Davey. 6 hours and 5 minutes of average daily screen time for Gen Z. But of the Gen Z that was polled for this study, 56% of them reported feeling like they're probably addicted to their phone. And I think that's one of the more interesting things to me is there's a large percentage of people that realize they're addicted to their phone, but either don't want to make a change or aren't able to make any kind of change. There's no real solution. We have AA for alcoholics that are trying to break that addiction. We have all sorts of other what am I looking for? Rehabs and different things for people that are trying to fight addictions, gambling addictions. But this phone addiction issue is kind of new, and I think people are just kind of putting up with it. They don't know how to combat it. All right, so let's millennial, if you had to guess their average daily screen time.
5.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
Ooh.
4 hours and 36 minutes.
Look at us.
Look at us. Look at us. Gen X is 4 hours and 9 minutes, so shortly there, right after us. And then baby boomers, you guess.
3.5 hours.
3 hours and 31 minutes. Davey, right on the nose, damn near.
That's still a lot for the baby boomer generation, considering they've lived
just
the majority
adopted
of their lives without it.
Right.
That shows the addictive principle of the phone. Like, these people, baby boomers probably lived, 50 years without smartphones?
Yeah, yeah.
And now they're using it 3.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
The number there that I wanted to go back to is the 56% of people think they're addicted.
Yeah.
Now, that means I'd say 40% of people are lying.
Yep. But now here, to that same point, of the boomers that were polled, only 29% of them feel like they're addicted.
I think that's probably maybe a little low, but I feel like you take the cell phone, you take smartphones away from baby boomers, they can easily adjust.
I think you're probably right. Like you said, they have 50 years or so of experience without it, so maybe they don't feel as scared of not having a cell phone, but I think some of them are more addicted than they even realize with their smartphones.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that I think I've been on the record of saying is, yes, I think a lot of great things have become possible with smartphones, but I also think that there's a lot of negative things.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to vote, even though I have addictive tendencies with my phone as well,
Yeah.
I feel like I would elect to take them away from everyone.
You think that the net positive of taking phones away from everybody is better than the net negative?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I think that's a really tough question.
Emphatically. Because how much people are using this technology to better their lives? And how much are people just mindlessly scrolling, sending pictures, messaging things that aren't a necessity at all, and if are prohibiting you from being productive, including myself. I've recently noticed that I get on my phone in the morning and I'll lay in bed for 45 minutes just scrolling YouTube, just mindlessly, not even being aware of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've had to catch myself the same idea, but at the end of the day, like, oh, it's 10:30 at night. I'm not doing anything. Whatever game I was watching is over. Let me just see what's up on the old whatevers, scrolling through Reddit, scrolling through the whatever. And then it's like, next thing I know, it's like 11:15, 11:30. I'm like, I really should just go to bed. Like, I'm not doing anything useful here. I'm just staying up later and not doing anything.
So what I've made now, which is just since we've recorded, so this is only on day 5 of this, because I've realized it's becoming a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? My sleep schedule, like I told you, went from waking up at like 7 to 8 now regularly. I'd say on average 6:30 to 8.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make up that time by, okay, I'm sleeping in a little later, but now the time that I was just scrolling on my phone, when I go to the bathroom, I get up and I make my bed. And I haven't always been a bed maker, but it's been nice because once I make it, I don't want to get back into it until it's bedtime. Yeah. So that is how I've kind of broken this habit. And now that this bed is made,
making your bed in the morning is underrated for the different good impacts it can have. So many different positive things can come from just making your bed every day. I've been on that bandwagon for a handful of months now. Just getting up, making the bed. All right, I've already done something good for the day. Like, what's the next? Something so simple.
It really has. And I'm only on day 5, and I just it started a good routine. Yeah, it gets me out of scrolling on my phone to being like kind of in real life. Yeah. All right, made my bed. Like you said, that's good. What next? Oh, I wanted to make a smoothie for breakfast before I came to your house. Now I went directly from the bed, making to the kitchen, made the smoothie, rinsed it all out, and now I'm creating this mindset
of moving forward,
of doing things that I want to do for production rather than scrolling on my phone.
Big times. So in this study, most people agreed with you. It said about 1 in 10 people, or 10% of that survey, thought that phones would positively affect mental health. But by contrast, 68% of those people that were surveyed thought that it negatively affected mental health. So most people agree that phones and screen time have a negative impact on mental health. And those things being like eye strain and not getting things done that you want to do, or trouble paying attention. These are some of the different worries that we have about, screen time. And even something as simple as like bad posture, neck strains, your upper back, like from just looking at your phone for extended periods of time. People don't even think about the bad posture that, the damage you're doing to your body just from sitting there looking at your phone. You don't even think anything of it. So let's see. Looking at the smartphone users, there were approximately 3.67 billion smartphone subscriptions worldwide as of 2016. So that was 9 years ago. Do you want to take a stab at how many users there's going to be estimated to be by 2027?
6.1 billion.
So in 2022, we hit 6.57 billion.
You gotta think about all like the toddlers and the babies that aren't even accounted for. That's nuts. That's like 95% of the population. Third world countries are using smartphones.
So that's 2 or 3 years ago, that was the 6.5 billion number. By 2027, it's estimated there will be 7.69 billion smartphone subscriptions. And that is just 200 million shy of the current global population. Think about that just for a moment. That means darn near 90-something% of our global population will be tied in together, able to communicate instantly with each other. And somehow we're at the most, like, feels like, tipping point.
Yeah, because it's a net negative. That's probably part of the pitch. The pitch of the powers that be, the smartphone, all they say that. But how many people are using this device to communicate, to learn about cultures? A very small percent.
Yeah. Mostly it's being exploited by governments and large corporations to, control the narratives.
I think cell phones in itself are good inventions. Especially kids, or you need to get a hold of somebody immediately. You call them, text them.
Yeah.
We go back to that. I think it would be productive. It will not happen. I
Right.
know it will not happen. I'm just
have
saying.
phones go back to just basic communications and not what it's turned into.
Yeah, even think about smartphones, like TV shows. You could argue good distraction, wind yourself down. You have your 2 shows maybe that you watch.
Yeah.
That's meant to be the distraction from your everyday life.
Yeah.
People are now being distracted from their distraction. You
Yeah.
put a TV show on you mean to watch, you pick your phone up, you miss 30 minutes of your show.
Yep. Start it over.
It's crazy.
It is. It's 100% just distracts and takes away from the real world, if you will, that's happening around you. But it's like, like anything else that's kind of come along in human history, it gets exploited, right? Like we figured out how to make the printing press and make things, books and literature easy for people to access and read. Well, here comes newspapers with all their large propaganda machines and telling stories to sway opinions one way or another. And it's just kind of been a slow trickle of that same process with everything.
And the freedoms that America has and was founded on,
The 5 freedoms,
they're great.
the raps.
They're great, and I know it's and I patriotic as ever. Love America. I do love the principles of it, but I think we are so raised to hate these stipulations that other countries put on things.
Mm-hmm.
They can limit cell phone use. They can
Right.
limit all these things, and and America would hear that and say that's crazy.
Let the people decide. They have the freedom.
But you could argue,
We're our own worst enemy.
I mean, there's a reason maybe we need to be governed.
Yeah. That's a whole different kind of conversation. It's
Yeah.
like, where do you draw that line, right? Like, where do you allow people to make bad decisions and have to deal with those consequences, or where do you save people from themselves, right? Like, for years, government said, we're going to step in and not allow people to openly gamble. This is bad for society. This is a stain. But here we go. The last, however, 15, 20 years, we've opened it up, Pandora's box, and said, you know what? Gambling's not all that bad. Let's let people decide.
Well, the problem is like the government has kind of became the issue because yes, people need to be governed by people who have their they want them to succeed. I think now the government has became so in line with all these mega corporations and business that they now do not have your best interest.
Yeah.
So while we
that's
might
why
have
they
became
want-
a society needed to be governed by a government that does not have your best interest, and I think that's what's led to the current state.
It's true. And that's why they will never, make any sort of sweeping regulations against what cell phones can and can't do, how they can, basically lure you in with addiction and keep you engaged. Everything that's on your phone has been designed to keep you on that phone. We've done study after study that shows how to influence people's decision making and how people are best, persuaded to do things, and all that research has been used to develop these apps and these games and all this stuff to just keep people on their phones. So it's not awesome. It's not awesome, but I think the only way to move in an opposite direction is acknowledge the problem, right? So I think the more that people have conversations about phone use and the negative parts of phone use, the better chance we have of swinging the opposite direction.
So when do you think this happened? Which I think all ties in, right, to what I was saying. The government used to regulate businesses so they couldn't exploit people.
Yeah.
And at some point, businesses got in bed with the government and said, we can exploit these people together. Now businesses, government, they benefit to the people's expense. At what point did government stop looking out for the everyday person and start being swayed by the powers that be, the money, the green that comes with these Fortune 500 companies?
I think it's hard to point at one specific time, and I think it if you look at different societies, Egyptian society, Roman societies, and then our current political and structure and stuff like that, like it's it just sets in over time, after multiple generations of business people and highly influential people get their hands into the government, and then that kind of like process of government being in bed with those influential people and doing the stuff to benefit the few and not the majority, it just kind of naturally happens in these cultures over hundreds of years. So, I'd say with America, it was definitely like the rise of industrialization and like our country being on the forefront of industrialized nations, right? At the turn of the 20th century, being one of the first countries to really get going in the Industrial Revolution, allowed for businesses and people to become much more powerful than our government really planned for. And so when that kind of happened, then the interest of those powerful people became the interest of the government when it was beneficial for the government to need those powerful people to work. They had to, it became beneficial for them all. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint.
It's because people started, it is possible. It really is possible to have the integrity to turn down and to not have greed.
It should be.
It can be. People do. Those people, but I guarantee you 90% of people would listen to this, and then they would choose a lump sum of money if it meant hurting somebody else, setting them back.
Yeah.
People are it's our like almost animalistic instinct to, but at what point is enough is enough?
If it's an order coming from somebody that is in a place of perceived power. There's I wish I had the name of the study in front of me, but there was a famous study done where a scientist would bring the participant in, and essentially they were told that another person was on the other side of the wall and hooked up to like electrodes, and the person had like a button in front of them, and then they would have to answer questions, the person on the other side of the wall, and the scientist would tell the other person like, okay, it's your job to hit the button for the electrodes, like if this person gets a question wrong, and each question they got wrong, they have to increase the strength of the electricity or whatever. And they found in this study that as long as the scientist told the people like, do it, it's okay, it's fine, that person on the other side of the wall could be screaming and sounding like they were in so much pain, but 9 times out of 10 the person would just go ahead and push that button because they weren't the ones being hurt, but they were being told as somebody that they thought was in a position of power to go for it, to do it, and so they just did it. So it shows the influence of people and perceived power can have over your average everyday person. It sucks.
But you got somehow we have to That's what separates us from the animals, right? We have this conscious.
Yeah.
We should be able, like, at some point, people talk about being progressive, and the society has not really progressed that much because at the end of the day, society and across the globe is still so self-serving and still so selfish. And then you have a lot of exceptions, but we need those exceptions to become the majority to progress as a society. That will not happen. No. I guarantee it.
No.
People are selfish. You will fuck over a bunch of people for your own gains.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you tell yourself you wouldn't, if the opportunity is in front of you, you likely would. Most people likely would. And that's just kind of an unfortunate condition of the human persons, of us. Is it just kind of like...
It doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be, but it was kind of, like you said, it's almost natural instincts, to look out for yourself first. It's like ingrained into a person to like, oh my gosh, I need to make sure that I'm taken care of.
That's what I'm saying. But we can move on. This is for a different day. But
so cell phone use, not great. Let's get that down. Let's be aware of it, and let's be better. Well, you had an interesting question. You were talking to me earlier too. Kind of, talks the difference between us Americans and how people maybe think globally. If we look at the sports of football and soccer, football obviously has taken such a strong hold on American culture, and it's kind of a complicated game. You have 11 players on each team, 22 players on the field at once, and each of those players has a specific job, and certain players are allowed to do certain things and other players aren't allowed to do other things. So it's not an easy game to understand, but yet we can't get enough of it in America. And the game of football hasn't necessarily caught on globally like it has here. But then you look at soccer, and soccer obviously is not as popular in America as it is globally. So I don't know if you have any thoughts of like what makes a difference in how those sports are perceived. Why do we like one and not the other? Yeah,
because, really, like, in a nutshell, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, and it's not even close. But football is the most popular sport, and it's not even close. And what you would say is probably the biggest country in the world as far as...
Well, one of the...
It's a global...
One of the highest, producing countries. We don't have the most people. We don't have the highest GDP, but we're close. We're usually back and forth with China.
I heard that question, and I really don't know. I know that soccer has obviously been around for thousands of years, so people have grown up with soccer over in those countries and all that stuff. So they're just so used to it. It's became a part of their culture, which is a long historic culture of soccer over there. But even in America, football wasn't always number one. It was surpassed. So you can even make the argument, well, if that was the case and people are just used to what they're used to, then wouldn't baseball still be the number one over here?
And that's kind of what my wondering was, like, we became infatuated with the sport of baseball as a country before football, and I almost wonder if the kind of methodical chess-like approach to baseball and the complex decisions you can make in a game that affects the outcome is what drew people to football. Like, it's almost like a chess game. You do a lot of planning and prep for 5 seconds of as fast as you can action. And so it's just, it became, what's the word I'm looking for? It just became ingrained in people, like, understand the nuances of the game. And it's like, they understand the strategy, but also being able to then implement the strategy in a physical kind of way is like really what drew people in. Maybe it's just a guess. I don't know.
And first of all, I think that over in Europe and South America and Africa and all these other continents, like, they're just, I don't know, maybe they like to be bored.
It's also easier to get guys together and just to play soccer, like just kick a ball around for a net, than it is to necessarily play organized football.
Yes, it is easier. But I'm going back to why America became so infatuated. At any given time, there could be such an exciting play. You saw Saquon Barkley last week, breaks 3 tackles, first rush of the game, 60 yards to the house. That is exciting as all get out.
Yeah.
And then right away, there's a kickoff, and that can theoretically be taken right back and bang, 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 bang. High scoring soccer so many times has 90 minutes of running, maybe 2 or 3, on a great game, 5 exciting goals.
Yeah.
And I'll give you those moments of those goals from when I've watched soccer are so exciting, but by God, like, there's no nuance in between.
Yeah.
There's no quarterback sack that stops. There's no fumble or something that could stall a drive that's like a pivotal.
We've pushed one of our midfielders forward. They got the 5-4-5 now.
It's just, I don't know. I will go back to the beginning of this podcast's history and state that I do think that America's just doing it right in that regard. You're not seeing it right. Soccer.
You're not seeing it right.
You could keep it. You could keep it over there.
Oh, we just got the pig upstairs making a bunch of noise, scooting the trash can around the kitchen.
Is that what's been happening this whole time?
Yeah. We got my pet pigs up there pushing the trash can around the kitchen.
Jamie this whole time.
No, the pig's loose, doing her pig things.
Oh man.
So I don't know. I think that it has to do with something about baseball's popularity, and we just kind of we had more time to appreciate the slower developing sports, I want to say. Stuff that was more nuanced as opposed to just who can put the ball in the goal.
And I was just talking to my dad, and technically you could say every game's like this, but football was literally designed to kind of be like, you said chess, but like also kind of a simulation of war. You have your general,
big strategy.
And Bill Belichick is, he quite often ties the two together. He grew up military and football.
Yeah.
And really, he references the art of war several times in the book in his approach to football. And I just think that's, I don't know. I mean.
Well, it's true. And I think that the combination of the two is ingrained. And I mean, we'll kind of talk about the inner workings of football and military here in a little bit when we get into our Mount Rushmore of rivalries.
Yeah, and while we're on football, I know this has kind of been a football-centric theme the last few weeks, but that's because we're
talked
in the
about
college,
our picks.
Yeah, and playoffs and all this stuff's happening. So after the Super Bowl, the football talk will die, and I'd love to get more into the stuff that
the other things of life.
Yeah.
But in keeping up with the football talk, we should at least mention the Chiefs will be playing Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. The thing that we really didn't want to happen is going to happen. Can't say we're too surprised or too shocked, but let's go Philly.
Well, I have a take, and you're not going to like it.
That's fine.
I shared with my dad last night, but contrarian by nature, I'm tired of everybody. Anytime
sick and tired.
There's a powerhouse. Happened with New England. Happened with Kansas City. Naturally, everybody hates success.
They're getting all the calls.
Yeah.
Get off your knees, ref. You're blowing the
game. They make these montages of videos and then point out all these times that the Chiefs got the benefit. But you could
this was a holy call.
You could do that for any team, but it's just what people are looking for.
Yeah.
And I compared it to say you drive a Kia Soul.
I drive a Kia Soul.
You're now going to recognize all these red Kia Souls.
Look at all these other people driving these Souls.
Yeah, because you're driving one. Now, if collectively a bunch of people are hating a team,
fucking Chiefs,
with the mind state of their only reason for success is because of the refs.
These guys are only good because the refs give them all the calls.
Now you're going to start looking for that. Now we have these smartphones.
See, look at here. Let's watch this play over and over again. He was clearly a first down. These referees want the Chiefs to win.
Yeah, and for now, I was a Chiefs hater. I don't like the Chiefs by any means.
Has it gone the other way?
No,
you hated them so much, and everybody else started hating them. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm tired of these haters.
I don't like the Chiefs. No, and I do not. But what I am tired of is it just became The same thing with New England. I hate New England. Always will, always have. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, you have to acknowledge their success.
Yeah, you hated the haters more than you hated the team.
No, not New England's different because I do hate New England. But I got tired of them not giving respect to Tom and everything that they accomplished there. Now, like I said last week, I think there is a little difference. I think that the Chiefs kind of were at war just with the country, but I feel like the NFL is kind of on their side. The Patriots are at war with the country and with the NFL.
Yeah.
Little different, and I stand by that.
No, the Chiefs are good for the NFL. They like them. The Chiefs are good for a lot of stuff.
But my argument is...
I don't know. I understand what you're saying. Like, the people that hate on the Chiefs and try to look at all these different things and don't have appreciation for actually how good that they have been playing. Like, they have... Patrick Mahomes has just been... I mean, there's no other way to put it. The man's got the clutch gene, right? He's able to perform when his back's against the wall. And he's got a great coach in Andy Reid who has been able to pull all the right strings. I think they're annoying people. When I watch Patrick Mahomes' mannerisms on the field and the way that he acts and Kelsey, that's the thing that make me just be a Chiefs hater. I don't give nothing. No, I've been over the whole ref thing. That's not real. That just happens all over. Like you said, you can look for penalties on any given play if you want, and especially in today's day and age, it feels like there's more flags thrown than ever.
That being said, fly Eagles fly.
Woo! Fly Eagles fly.
As I am tired of all these Chiefs people bitching and complaining, I want to make clear, I do not like Patrick Mahomes. I do not like Travis Kelce. I do not like any players on the Chiefs. Their fan base is annoying.
But what about green eggs and ham?
I do not like green eggs and ham. I like the Eagles players.
Yeah.
I do not like their fan base.
Yes. That's
I
where
want
I'm
the
at.
Eagles to win. So I said all that. I wanted to address this.
This Super Bowl is for Saquon.
You can
and
say
Jalen
and AJ.
and AJ. That's it.
They will not win, but I want them to.
Oh, come on.
They won't win.
Why won't they win? Because the Chiefs are just too good?
They always win.
They always win.
And that's why everybody hates them.
I don't hate them because they win. I hate them because they act stupid.
And that's where and me and you can align there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that two things can be true.
Yeah.
I don't want the Chiefs to win. I don't like the Chiefs, but I also think we've gone a little too far with...
Yeah, the Chiefs hate and, like, people reaching, like, they're straining their arms, trying to reach back for as much bullshit information they can and try to figure out,
the Chiefs wouldn't be good if it wasn't for those refs.
Yeah, no, you can hate the Chiefs, but just say it for what it is.
Yeah.
I hate the Chiefs because they keep winning.
yeah.
Same thing I said with New England.
Well,
I hate
I
New
don't
England.
hate them because they're winning.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I don't like the Chiefs because I don't like their players.
Yeah.
I don't like that they keep winning and they're...
I don't like how they present themselves.
Yes.
I don't like the Hunt family. I don't like these. I just don't like a lot of things about the Chiefs, and none of it has to do with the fact that they're winning.
And that's fair, but I just think you damn the argument when you say I hate the Chiefs because the refs want them to win.
Yeah,
I don't
you
want
do.
you
That's
on
a
my
stupid
side.
argument.
I hate the Chiefs, but I don't want to be tied in with those people.
Yeah.
Because I hate the Chiefs because I just think they're unlikable.
Yes, that's a great way of summarizing it. I'd agree. All
right, so moving
So
on.
fuck the Chiefs. Fly Eagles fly. We'll probably have another.
EAGLES Eagles.
That's great. I did. I saw that.
What did she said? Yeah, the mayor of Philly.
Yeah.
She said ELGLAES.
Hey, they didn't. Spelling tests were not a prerequisite for being a mayor. Okay, so
Requisite.
yeah, that too. So like, I could be mayor because I don't know how to spell, but I could spell Eagles.
Yeah.
Don't
So
make me do it
I
right
just
now.
want to get that on the air. Fuck the Chiefs.
Yeah,
It's always fuck the Chiefs.
it's always fuck the Chiefs.
It's always fuck the Patriots.
It's always fuck the Patriots. And I'm sure we'll probably have another episode before the Super Bowl takes place. So if there's any other interesting storylines coming out leading up to the game, I'm sure we could touch on that if we felt like it.
My dad did text me a funny one-liner.
Billy,
My dad, old Billy Dubs.
Bilbo.
He said that in Buffalo, they should start taking the bones out of their wings because they cannot help but choke. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh boy, watch out for them chicken wing bones.
That was a pretty good tie-in. Shot
Dude,
at Buffalo.
I feel some sort of way for Josh Allen. I feel the same way about Lamar Jackson too, though. But I feel like I don't know. Which one do you think's got the most heartbreak that they've had to deal with in their career?
Josh.
Yeah, it's tough. It's
because
been tough,
it's one
man.
team.
Yeah.
4 times he's been eliminated by his dad. Patty, his dad.
Daddy Patty.
And I'm on the record of saying I hate Josh Allen, but let me make it clear. I like Josh Allen better than Patrick Mahomes, but it's funny. It's comical. I mean, this guy just gets owned.
Yeah. But it's like he's so good, too. I mean, is it going to be like some of those other great golfers during the Tiger Woods, one he was so dominant? Like, we don't really talk about, I guess people talk about Phil, but it's kind of like Phil, was played backseat to Tiger all those years.
Yeah.
But at least Phil won some championships. Poor Josh Allen.
Not to kick the beehive that I just acknowledged. Yeah! Josh Allen did get that first down.
Ooh.
And that did lead to the Chiefs getting the lead. I will acknowledge that. But Josh had the ball back with 3.5 minutes left.
Mm-hmm. And then they had a chance still, right?
Yeah, he
that
made a
didn't
great
make
throw.
It break the game.
He made a great throw. Kincaid dropped that ball.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great throw in the circumstances because, amazing to get even a chance for his player to catch it. Tough catch, tough play all around. You can't blame it on a one play thing the whole game. I guess that begs the question then, if you talked about the first down, do you think there needs to be a change with how the NFL approaches first downs? We have amazing technology. We should be able to have footballs with sensors in them and then be able to have a laser line essentially and know if the football crosses that threshold, then you are at a first down.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yes. Yeah, there does need to be that.
What do you think is stopped the NFL from making that kind of change? Just that there hasn't been like an obvious need for it? And maybe now they'll look at it a little closer?
I think it's the same thing as how do we not have the technology to tell if a baseball is a strike or not automatically? It's just like the human element thing. I don't know. But because it seems to be the same thing. I feel like the
baseball strike situation is a lot more nuanced than a first down.
No.
Because the strike zone changes depending on the batter, the height of the batter.
And the first down marker changes depending on where the
changes
spot
to be
of the ball
another
is.
10 yards.
Yeah.
But that's easy. It's not as easy as moving like the sensors for a strike zone, in my opinion. I guess. I don't know. I'm not a fucking tech nerd.
I could call Hong Kong right now, dude. The technology is there. I'm just saying, like, we've...
and ask them
what
we should do about first downs.
I could say, I'm here in St. Louis. I have this device. I type in a few numbers, and I'm talking to somebody in Hong Kong.
Yeah, they'd say, what the fuck is Hong Kong?
They wouldn't ask about this phone in my hand.
They wouldn't even care about that. They'd say, oh, what the fuck is Hong Kong? Another world?
Their cousin just died of the mumps 2 weeks before that on a trip trying to go to San Francisco to find gold. They were going to
the Oregon Trail, and they caught the old tuberculosis.
That's what I'm saying. Gosh, first world problems.
So, yeah, NFL, figure out your first down shit because...
It is crazy.
It should be a much more clear state. Because it always seemed like they got the 2 oldest men on the planet running the chain gang. And when they want to... They say, come out and measure this thing. You got 80-year-old Jimmy scooting out with the chain. Takes him 30 seconds just to get out there. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a better way than having 2 drinking buddies from some small bar being the chain gang.
The 2 refs were like 3 yards apart. And the play before that was also a first down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. There was some weird stuff with the spotting of the ball there. So I think that with as popular as the NFL is, with how much money they make, that they really need to dial in on this first down stuff. It shouldn't be hard.
So the Chiefs win, right?
Chiefs won.
No, the Chiefs are going to win.
Chiefs might win.
Travis Kelce, midfield, announces his retirement first?
Yes.
Or does he get on a knee and propose to Taylor Swift?
I don't think they do it.
And they say, the end of an era.
The end of an era. No, I don't think he'll propose to Taylor Swift during any sort of Chiefs game. I think that they don't want to overshadow the Chiefs. They don't want anybody to have the worst day of their job.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say that, but
I think that it's more likely that he would announce his retirement on the field after a Super Bowl than he would propose to her. I think that she wouldn't like that. And then all the Taylor's Taylor heads. What do they call them? Swifties. Thank you. Jesus. Costco guys, Swifties. I don't know, dude. They would all come at the head of him being like, oh my God, Travis embarrassed her by doing this so publicly on such an open stage. He should have had a more intimate, private setting to propose to her.
Yeah. And it'd be kind of off kilter for Travis Kelce to use Taylor Swift for any attention. He definitely has not benefited from this relationship at all.
No, come on. Let's be honest. He loves that woman with all his heart, and there is no ulterior motives to that relationship.
And how will these Eagle fans react to Jason Kelce wearing Chiefs gear at the game?
You know, I think they're going to understand it's about making money. And and Jason Kelce's got to go out and make that money and be on Team Travis and Team Taylor.
If you're a Kelce fan, you definitely do not have integrity. You understand
nothing about integrity.
It's all about money for those guys. They will force it down your eyes.
He said, how many commercials can we be in this year? Yeah, we'll do that. Give it to us.
So Kelce brothers, they suck, but America loves them. That is going to be coming to an end soon.
The Kelce brother
it's
experience?
An oversaturation.
Yeah. Do you think that that's kind of just the move these days? It's like if you have an opportunity to like be oversaturated, you just go for it and you just make your money when you can? Or would you rather... Because I think like if people hold themselves back a little bit and don't like go out and do all they can, then the opportunity is gone and then they can't make all that money in that short period of time. So it's almost like the strategy is like, well... just go hard for a period of time, and then when everybody's sick of us, we'll be done, and we'll have made a bunch of money, and on to whatever else. We're on to New England.
I don't know. Speaking of oversaturation, there's a Beatles fact that I found interesting.
Oh, the Beatles.
So if the start of COVID was the start of Beatlemania in America. Beatles coming over, Ed Sullivan's show. You know it, right?
Yeah, okay.
It'd be coming to an end this summer.
Just in the length of time?
That's how short their run was.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
5 years. I mean, that's not that short, really, if you think about it.
It is.
They did a lot.
I feel like the average person would say, how long was Beatles Mania? 5 years is...
Well, in America,
for
it
all
was
they
like
accomplished,
7 years is probably total. You know, they had a couple
but
years
just
in
the
England
Beatlemania, it's pretty wild to think about. You know, COVID
Yeah.
is still fresh on all of our brains. So to say like from now and
What's
from when
5
COVID
years?
was,
Yeah,
like the Beatles came and went.
it was a sensation that swept the nation. That's for sure.
But speaking of the Beatles,
I mean, I think that's a pretty quick run, but they put out a lot. They did nothing but work and tour in that 5 years. You know, nose of the grindstone.
yeah. So I saw a picture that showed maybe beginning of the Beatles Mania, and then they show like at the end right before they broke up.
Yeah.
And they said the presidency, the 4-year term really ages you. They said Beatlemania is like times 10. These guys all look like they're in their 40s.
Yeah, they went from being little strapping young lads to, well, you know, a lot of acid trips will do that to you too.
I mean, they look like shit.
They look like shit. I think they just stopped caring what they looked like. At first, when they were first breaking into the scene, you had to be a clean cut kind of, you know, guy to be able to be a marketable group. And once they'd gone past the threshold of needing to care about being popular because they were just so popular, then they could let themselves go.
And that kind of led to then America just
letting ourselves go.
The Beatles followed the market and then became. They followed the standard, then they became.
They were culture setters.
The
at
standard,
yeah. Yep.
And somewhere in between this time, sorry.
I just was saying the Beatles were interesting.
George Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
Who is a Beatles member. And Eric Clapton, may or may not have heard of him, guitarist for Cream.
Yeah.
They were best buds.
Big friends,
now,
big friends.
Can you pull up, I forget this
producer
lady's
Tony
name, Patty.
We had George Harrison and Eric Clapton were going after the same girl. It was Patty Boyd.
George Harrison was married to Patty Boyd.
Wife. That's correct.
Now, from my understanding, over the years of George and Patty's marriage, she would start to vent to Mr. Clapton about some of George's discretions, infidelities, all the stuff that comes within a failed marriage.
You see this a lot. You see a lot of times these women in committed relationships seeking out counsel from other men. They want to vent to them, and they say, "Can you fill me in on what's going on? Like, why?"
Now, through these counsel sessions, Eric fell in love with his best friend's wife.
His best friend's girlfriend.
And at one point in this relationship, Eric, I guess, said, "Fuck it. The world needs to know. George needs to know I fell in love with Patty." And he basically openly tries to swoon Patty away from George.
Yeah.
His first attempt failed. Now, before I carry on, don't you have something happened in between here?
Yours. Well, yeah. So there was, I guess, an article that came out last year that talked to Patty Boyd and also talked to a John Hurt, who was an actor that would hang out with them often. And John recalled there would be some different times that Eric would turn up, and then him and George would just be hanging out, and they'd be playing guitar, but it would be Eric say, "Oh, George, let me show you this thing," and he would kind of like do some cool lick or something different, and George would be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, let me do it," and then George would go, "Oh, Eric, let me show you this thing," and it was almost, as reported here, that it seemed that the two guys were trying to duel back and forth, outdo each other with their guitar prowess to try to impress their lady friend.
Which is so crazy because this is two of the iconic
guitar players, and you just imagine them like in a pissing contest of trying to be the better guitar player
over this woman
who she then later described both of them as boy men and highly emotionally immature.
We are a dumb species, right? 20-year-old,
Yeah.
But in your 20s as a man, and really even after, we lack intelligence.
Yeah, we want to, as much as we want to say we're not emotional creatures, men are emotional creatures just as much. Men are emotional creatures too. We just let anger be that predominant emotion sometimes, and it gets in our way.
It does. Ego, but okay, so fast forward. Okay. Patty has had enough of George's bullshit.
She's done.
She is done. And she's like, you know what? Eric loves me. He's been there. He's been my shoulder to cry on.
He wrote these sweet little songs. Hit songs.
Well, not yet.
Oh, he was going to write some hit songs about me.
Yeah. She leaves George. She says, "Eric, I love you." Bam. So Eric then, he's like, I'm so happy because he went in a dark, depressed state. Alcohol, drugs, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
When his first attempt of swooning Patty failed. She chooses him. He's like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
I finally got her. He wrote the song for her.
1977, Harrison divorced and Patty divorced, and Clapton was married to her by 79.
So maybe there was, but anyways, he's like, listen to this song that I wrote for you. And the song about Patty was titled
Layla, got you on my knees, Layla.
Yeah, Eric Clapton's biggest hit, right?
One of his biggest hits. I'd say some people like to look at Crossroads and some or Tears in Heaven. Those kind of.
So he writes this massive hit for Patty. It seems like the fairy tale ending. Wrong. Patty again.
Wrong.
Swindled, bamboozled,
hoodwinked.
Went from one piece of shit to the next. Because Eric Clapton starts doing all the same stuff that George was doing that Patty was crying to him about. He's cheating on her. He's doing all these drugs, drinking, all this stuff. He spent all these years depressed because Patty didn't choose him, and then he gets her and treats her like shit.
Yeah.
So she's mad. She wants to end it. She flies to the States. She's going to start a life there. Clapton doesn't like this.
So I don't like this.
He wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. So he calls Patty and he's like, "Babe, actually, I love you. I do want to be committed. Let's get married." Sadly, Patty, she swooned and thinks like, "Oh, great. This is great. I am." She flies back. She marries Eric only for him to just continue his piece of shit ways. And
little do you know.
So I just think the victim in all this is Patty. And I feel bad for that young lady.
She got to be with two great guitar players.
Well, okay,
Both
but we
of them assholes.
Yeah, she got to be with them. Like that just no, fuck them.
I want to be with you.
They treat her like shit.
Yep. I just like to envision in my mind those two dudes hanging out and just trying to go back and forth with, oh, check out this guitar thing. It's like, I bet you can't do this one, mate. You know, they're just like trying to outdo each other with the guitar. I like to just imagine that scenario playing out in my mind. And,
yeah.
I think that'd be pretty comical.
I guess one of the all-time rivalries, you'd say.
Yeah, I'd say that that's a good one for guitar players. They definitely had a big rivalry. Obviously, there's been a lot of other rivalries in music. You know, you have Kurt Cobain and Axl Rose were two big kind of music rivals. But last week, we kind of mentioned that we'd get into other rivals, specifically sports rivalries.
Woo! But we've lambasted that a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. Thanks for sticking with us to make sure you guys are going to hear this Mount Rushmore. We got a lot of information on this one. So we kind of decided to break these sports rivalries down into different leagues instead of trying to just do a Mount Rushmore for best rivalries across all of sports. And so this week we kind of focusing in on college rivalries,
football,
specifically football. We could, I guess, we could do basketball a different week, huh?
Yeah, because. At first, we were just going to do rivalries, and just one Wikipedia search into the college football rivalry.
Yeah,
we could not do it justice. Like these rivalries, I think college football, we might be starting with the biggest, but
yeah, with some of the more notable rivalries and some of the ones longest standing too.
I mean, the history amongst these rivalries is insane. It goes beyond sports.
Yeah, most of them started outside of sports, interestingly enough. And so we talked about it before the show, and Xavier and I kind of came to a consensus on what we believe are the four top rivalries in college football.
So yeah, this week we probably will do this for every sport, correct?
Yeah.
We will not be drafting against each other. We will be coming up with a consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was tough because you have to leave off some big college rivalries.
Yep.
But you want to take us away for... And these are not in any particular order, although I do think one, after reading on all, would be my number one.
Yeah.
Do we save that one for last?
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with, I think, one that people, especially of recent history, will kind of think about and know, and that's Ohio State and Michigan. You know, large rivals. So Ohio State and Michigan played their first game against each other in 1897. There has been 120 meetings between the schools. Michigan leads those meetings 62, 51, and 6. There's always kind of been hatred between these two schools going back to the Toledo War, which was in the mid-1800s. And that was a war fought between Michigan and Ohio, the two states, about strips of land, you know, in the Toledo area. So there was battles fought between the two state militias and arguments over this land. And so when the two schools started to play each other, that kind of bad blood continued to carry over. And if you were in one camp, you wouldn't even think of going to the other camp.
Yeah, so going all the way back then to this battle of wars, this hatred seeps into these football teams, and that hatred is passed and passed, which is kind of like going into 2024, the end of the game, the infamous fight. Ohio State loses for a fourth straight year.
Yeah.
Flag trying to be planted.
Yeah.
Obviously huge. I mean, everybody, if you even know anything about college football, you know how much this hated rivalry is, and it all stems from a real-life war of land.
Yeah. Yep. And then in the titles, you have Michigan with 12 titles, Ohio State with 9. So you kind of got Ohio State really feeling like the little brother in this rivalry, I would say. Even so much as they want to change some state legislation to not allow flag planting to happen, which is like, that's something else, right? We're talking about politics needing to be involved because they don't want a rival school to be able to celebrate on their field.
I say allow it.
I say allow it. Yeah, stop being so damn soft.
Beat them. How many players on the school do you think are aware that this whole rivalry and the hatred they have stemmed from a battle for Toledo and the land around it?
I bet they don't know the specific details, but I think that they probably know it stems back to like actual fighting between the two states. You know, Missouri, Kansas, sort of like a honorable mention on these rivalry lists. We had the same history with Kansas. Why we have such a rivalry is because our two state militias fought over basically the Kansas City land area. You know, Kansas, the state, wanted that area, and Missouri was like, no, it's ours. So there was battles between the two state militias, and Missouri's militia was called the Tigers. That's right.
Oh.
So that's
What
why
was Kansas is called?
I don't know. Maybe
Was it
the
the
Jayhawks.
Jayhawks?
I don't know that.
That'd be cool.
100%. It'd correlate, but I don't know that that's factual. I just know that Missouri, we were the Tigers.
I think they should start playing every year again in football, and whoever wins that year, they get all of Kansas City.
We just play over a land plot each year.
Fucking
Gosh,
awesome.
could you imagine dude, there would be
The
some
ramifications.
Holy shit. Like, governments would be so involved with the football teams, like recruiting and the money that would be pumped into these teams to make sure that they win every year so that business would still be in the state. Holy shit.
Let's start settling things on the field.
Yeah, that'd be something else. I mean, it's clear, cut and dry. Winner takes all. There's no
but every year could change.
Yeah, no politics, no bureaucracy or whatever.
Or you do it every 3 years.
Yeah, I think that'd be every 3 years we go for the who's going to control Kansas City. Gosh. All right, so Ohio State, Michigan, great rivalry. I think we decided next probably would be Texas and Oklahoma, also known as the Red River rivalry. Red River rivalry. Say that one 5 times
We
fast.
did predict that that'd be a tongue twister. The Red River rivalry.
Yeah. I knew that I would probably say rivalry incorrectly about 300 times today, so I'm on track for that. So those two teams played their first games against each other in the year 1900, and they also played 120 games against each other. Interesting fact about this, though, is when Oklahoma and Texas first met, Oklahoma was not even considered to be a real football program.
No.
They were thought of as a JV squad. And so both teams didn't have their mascots or nicknames at the time. Texas was just known as the varsity squad. So you had...
That's real. The first game, Texas just went by varsity team. The first game between Texas and Oklahoma, it was Texas varsity versus Oklahoma.
Yep.
Disrespect.
The disrespect. And when you look at the series matchup between these two teams, in the 120 games played, Texas leads the series 64-51 and 5 ties. Now, what is also interesting outside of the beginning of it, where Oklahoma was thought of such as a little brother, there's been 70 different meetings between these teams where both the teams were ranked, which is a pretty wild stat. Including one of the last 19 meetings is like, wait, what am I reading here? Oh, every one of the last 19. So every one of the last 19 years, at least one of the teams has been ranked.
Wow. Yeah, so I think that, and there definitely probably is some implications that go beyond. I couldn't find anything in the research that indicated something of the sorts of
state militias fighting each other.
Now, I would assume there is, but could not find that. But I do think as far as football goes, just like some of the stuff he alluded to, both have been national powerhouses at different times or at the same times.
You have Texas with 9 national championships and Oklahoma with 7 over the years. So a lot closer national championships.
I mean, the rivalry's so deep, they've kind of been a package deal. They both were in the Big 12 all this time, and then finally, when one went to the SEC, the other is there too. Like,
it's good for both of them to have each other. Essentially, you know, they're two powerhouse brands that have been able to grow because of the other one. Essentially,
and you have to assume they're always recruiting against each other as well. Very similar markets that they're probably scouting and trying to pull within. So the Red River rivalry probably would be my number 4, but
it's one of our list of our Mount Rushmore that we put together. It was the one that was the only one that we thought was maybe debatable of could there be another one in its place. All these other ones that we decided on seem to be pretty, you know, you have to have them as high ranked rivalries. So we've gone through Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Oklahoma, and now we'll talk Army-Navy is probably the next Mount Rushmore game.
So fascinating too. I really loved reading some of the stuff. It's a lot. There's a lot of interesting tidbits there, and I think just
So Army-Navy first played each other in 1890. They've had 125 meetings. Navy is leading that series 63-55. But as Xavier kind of found earlier, I was reading, most of that success has been in recent years for Navy. What'd you say it was? They went on like a 20-year win streak or something?
No, they went on a 14-year win streak, but that was between 2002 and 2015.
Yeah.
They won 14 straight games. So prior to that, the Army had a leg up.
Yep.
So like this has been one of the more, because a lot of these you see that there is like an early domination
By one of the teams.
So that's why, like you see the 13-game head start Texas had. But you have to remember the beginning of the rivalry.
Yeah.
Texas was considered the varsity team. Now Navy Army, I went back and it's been pretty back and forth this whole time.
And early on with the Army-Navy rivalry, it was usual, like one of those teams was in the national championship conversation throughout the year. Like it was always one of those teams was included in the conversation within the first, 2/3 of the 20th century. The 1900s to the 1950s, 60s. Most of those years, Army or Navy was in the conversations for being a national championship team.
Yeah, so it'd be kind of like a modern Michigan, Ohio State. A lot of these years now, that game not only is a rivalry, but the winner of that game is going to have big national championship implications. But that was 60 years for Navy and Army.
Yeah, they were the teams that were known as like powerhouses, right?
In one of those years, if I may, JFK was killed on November 23rd, 1963.
Yeesh.
And so there's big discussions like, should Navy and Army even play? They were scheduled to play on the 30th of November. Mm-hmm. They would just cancel the game that year. But the country as a whole thought it would be better for the country
unifying to play the game.
So they played the game December 7th, 1963, where Roger Staubach that year led Navy over Alabama. They were number 2, and they end up going to the national title and losing to Texas that year. But so I just think it was pretty crazy. That was a notable.
And then so now we think of Army Navy, and we think of they have there's a specific day that we know we're all locked into Army Navy. They've kind of been given a day where they're the only game that's happening, and that started in 2009. And so I think that's become such a synonymous thing with this rivalry is the fact that it's on a day of its own and everybody really gets a chance to lock into it. And there's a lot of pageantry involved with this game that's not involved with other college teams. It makes it enjoyable to watch. You see all the cadets and stuff come out in formation onto the field and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it makes it interesting.
I never was big growing up on the Navy-Army rivalry, but I think the older I've got, I've really appreciated this for what it is. It's been nationally televised every year since what?
1945.
1945.
Yep, one of the oldest nationally televised games that there is.
That's every year.
For
80 years, this game has been nationally televised. Think about that.
Yeah, that's some large reach. For titles between these two teams, we have Army with 5 championships, Navy with 1.
Which is crazy to even think of either one of them as national title winners in modern era.
Yep. Another fun fact about Army-Navy is the first football player to wear a helmet was a Navy player.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph Reeves in 1983. He had a helmet made for him by an Indianapolis shoemaker.
Yeah. No, Annapolis.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Annapolis.
That's where the base is. And that was because a doctor had said that he could not go play football without head protection because another kick to the head could result in his death. So he was like, well, I'm not missing this Navy-Army game. So he went to this shoemaker and had this leather helmet made.
Doc told me I can't get kicked in the head one more time without head protection. I don't know if we can just come up with something. I got to play this game.
Dude, Tua needs to go to Annapolis.
I guess so. They're the leading the.
So yeah, so the
protection.
first ever football helmet was worn in the Navy Army game because this guy just couldn't be kicked in the head anymore.
And that set the stage. I mean, still to this day, we rely on all of our technology to come from military innovation.
Yeah, I mean, good point. But the last thing I'll say, the interesting thing about this rivalry is that the hatred. I mean, there's an intense rivalry there, but they both the Army and Navy's choirs sing the national anthem together in unison at the beginning of the game, and at the end of the game, the winning and losing teams all unify and they face the losing crowd first.
Yeah.
And then they turn and face the winning crowd as a signal of unification.
Yeah, and I think you're right in saying kind of that aspect of the Navy-Army rivalry really separates it from these other rivalries that we put on this Mount Rushmore because it's really good-spirited. Like, as much as anybody from Army always wants to beat Navy, as much as Navy always wants to beat Army, like, at the end of the game, they're still going to come together, and they know that, you know, they're going to be on the quote-unquote same team of being part of the U.S. military. But some of these other rivalries, you know, Ohio State, Michigan is based in state loyalty, and so they don't care to be friends afterwards. Same way with Texas and Oklahoma. And I think the biggest one of all for, like, legitimate hatred between two schools,
universities
that are not even different states, that's what makes the hatred even more palpable, you know, just large, is Alabama and Auburn.
The Iron Bowl.
The Iron Bowl. So it's referred to as the Iron Bowl because both of these schools were, both of these schools just geographically are located in an area that was rich in iron and steel production. I mean, it rivaled Pittsburgh in its steel production abilities in the late 1800s, and so as part of that, you know, the state being big in steel production, they were in cahoots with the federal government to get a lot of different grants. And in 1862 is when a land grant was awarded, and Auburn University was then founded based on that land grant being awarded. And that kind of set the stage for a lot of bad blood between the University of Alabama, which kind of thought of itself as being the marquee school of the state, versus Auburn, you know, this kind of newly developed school. And they were constantly battling back and forth for federal money, you know.
So this happened in the 1860s, which was 250,000 acres. That Alabama, the University of Alabama, which was already established, they wanted this land granted to them to expand their school. The city of Auburn, like Bob just mentioned, like they were like, no, we want this. They were awarded, and then like he said, this war, and I was on their Wikipedia page to read about this rivalry. I read 15 minutes before a football game was even mentioned. I mean, like, the presidents were involved.
Yeah, there's
of the United States.
So much politics and so much red tape that's involved with these two schools, and it kind of is always involved in the picture, you know, of why there's hatred between these two schools. It goes back to a lot of political rivalries and the differencing in political views and what, you know, each school wanted. But to kind of talk about the football, so first game between the two schools was in 1893. Alabama leads the all-time records with 51, 37, and 1. And as you noticed, there was only 89 games played between these two schools, even though they started playing in 1893. And that was because during the 1930s and into the mid kind of 1940s, they took a hiatus from playing each other. Like, that's how much these two schools kind of competed against each other. They didn't even want to agree upon a date for the game. There was a lot of different reasons why games weren't played between the 30s and 40s. And a lot of it had to do with they couldn't agree on who was going to pay for players' room and board, what day were we going to play the game. So a lot of petty stuff of, just coming up with reasons of why they couldn't even play each other. Just petty reasons.
Every single thing in this rivalry. I mean, there is just, like you said, there is palpable hatred. I mean, the president of Auburn just coming out and getting tied in with, like, they were fighting over there was a lot
of New Deal money awarded during the 30s to Auburn, and that also made Alabama more upset. So a lot of the hatred has to go back to federal money and which school was getting money and what school wasn't and why.
And this whole time, Alabama, every time in the early onset of this rivalry, like the 1930s and 40s, Auburn was, they were relatively newer university trying to stay afloat. And there was this looming factor that Alabama might just
absorb
Auburn. So imagine like your school's rivalry, and as hated as they were, the fear of being absorbed by this school.
Yeah.
I mean, that
was sitting in the back of Auburn's fans' heads for a long time, and there's just kind of that feeling of disdain for the other school is just carried through generations. So in titles, let me see here. So it was 1947 when they brought back playing each other, officially kind of made the Iron Bowl a regular thing. And in that year, they legitimately buried a hatchet.
Yes, yeah.
As a real sign of so burying the hatchet is as a Native American practice of showing peace. You take a weapon and you physically bury it in the ground. And so that's what these two schools did. They took a hatchet and they buried it in the ground. But they still hate each other.
Yeah. So, and that's crazy. And I really would recommend, if you have any history, if you like history at all or college football, like, do yourself a favor and read, because we decided if we did a whole thing on this school, it'd be an hour and a half just on this alone.
Right.
So just to fast forward and get into the football, another thing, like, these two schools have been national powerhouses throughout this whole time.
18 national titles for Alabama, 6 national titles for Auburn.
Yeah, it's banana lands.
Yeah, so both teams have been highly competitive at different times. I think, it's hard to say that it's been as even of a rivalry as maybe some of the others with, like, their matchups and the amount of times they won. Auburn's kind of always felt like the little brother in a lot of ways. But some reason Alabama allows Auburn fans to kind of get under their skin, and you like to see it.
Yeah, and there was this other. Do you remember back in 2013 when an Alabama fan poisoned the oak trees on Auburn's campus? These famous historic trees. This Alabama fan poisoned them and had to plead guilty, and he served 70 days in jail.
That's it?
He was 63 years old, but yeah, he served.
He murdered all these trees, and he's only getting however many days in jail.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
So I mean,
like, these trees ain't hurting nobody. They're helping our fucking environment, giving us nice fresh air. And this man decides to go and murder trees, and he's slap him on the wrist, give him 60 days.
that is crazy. But that's another part of the rivalry. A footnote that, like I said, I could go on and on
fans,
about this.
For sure. But it seems like they're made different in Alabama. The hate runs deep.
I mean, and I think, like you said at the beginning, a part of it, they're so close. I mean, they were fighting over land. They were fighting over who was going to get this land.
Yeah, who was going to be a university. Yeah, that definitely adds big time to that rivalry. So, and there's a lot of other great rivalries that we had to sidestep to come to this conclusion of 4. But I feel confident in saying that we definitely got the top rivalries. I mean, you got USC, UCLA,
USC Notre Dame is a big one.
USC Notre Dame's big one. Locally, Mizzou and Kansas is pretty heated rivalry. Oregon State, Arizona State.
Michigan State.
Yeah.
Florida State.
Like, a lot of those in-state ones have become rivalries over the years, but I think these interstate rivalries, for the most part, are like the ones that are steeped in, like, real hatred. And then obviously Alabama, Auburn is steeped in real hatred and disdain for the other school.
I mean,
so I like those. I like what we got there.
Roll Tide, War Damn Eagle. Like, we know their rally calls. Like, it's.
Shouts out to Cam.
So Cam Newton. I I just think it's cool that this rivalry goes all the way back to the 1890s, and Cam Newton being so good led to a pissed off Alabama fan poisoning trees.
You like it? You like to hear
Auburn's campus. So yeah, that I feel like even we went so in depth, and it didn't do justice to it because we just couldn't. It was so damn interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of good info about the rivalry between those two schools. If you guys want to spend some time going down that rabbit hole, I would encourage it. It is interesting.
We'll take text. We'll take some text on what sport you would like to hear next. Let's break down the rivalries, and the leader in the clubhouse by we'll say Tuesday. Whoever gets the most votes, we'll do that school. We'll do that sports rivalries. Next.
Yeah, whether it be college basketball, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB. Are we going to get into like Premier League soccer? Or?
Nope.
Nope. Some of those rivalries are pretty interesting. I mean, you go back hundreds of years, right?
Maybe I will. Maybe we will.
I think it could be fun. We'll do it last.
I knew where
soccer
you were going.
belongs.
EPL. We'll do EPL last.
Where it belongs.
Their rivalries probably do run really deep, and there probably is some seeded.
There's some great stories between some of those rivalries.
I do think that is actually probably the most interesting part of football.
Football, yeah, the rivalries between them. So we didn't really have anything else we were going to put a cap on. We just kind of talked about rivalries, and we know our Mount Rushmore is coming up. It's still going to be rivalries because it is really interesting. You know, figuring out why the rivalry started in the first place and, like, what's it based in? Is it purely manufactured rivalry or is it, like, a legitimate rivalry? I just wanted to see how many times I could say rivalry.
And it captivates, like, if you don't like sports, it's still interesting rivalries. Just like if you don't like rap, it's still captivating seeing this Drake, Kendrick, Tupac, Biggie. I feel like society loves animosity. They love beef. Yeah. So I think it kind of encompasses even the non-sports fans.
I mean, it's a story as old as humankind. Everybody wants a good versus evil. So if they can decide, oh, this is the good, this is the evil, let's watch them duke it out. Like that's every story. That's what's entertaining. And people's perception on who's good and who's evil is different, and that's what also keeps it engaging.
Just like in real life.
Just like in real life, brother.
I do think Auburn is kind of the good in this.
Oh.
Alabama evil.
Evil.
I don't necessarily think Alabama's evil. I'm just saying, like, Auburn's been the underdog.
Yeah.
You know, they've started from the bottom the whole time. Alabama's been trying to suppress them.
Yeah, I agree. Alabama's been trying to put their foot on Auburn and say, get out of here, shaking off little brother. But Auburn's hold their own. They've held their own a lot, over the years. So kudos to them.
So yeah, I think about sums
anything
up.
else coming up this weekend that you're looking forward to? You have Pro Bowl stuff happening this weekend?
Yeah, no, who cares?
We have Grammys. Is that this weekend too? Maybe Oscars. It's award season.
It is award season, and maybe we'll get into it after the fact. I don't really look forward to it.
No, I usually don't either.
It's interesting to read after, maybe the aftermath.
We talked a little bit about the Grammys and Oscars last year. I mean, that was one of our first few podcast episodes.
Well, we'll do it then. We'll run it back.
Yeah, like a little history here.
We'll break down.
Every year
we'll
get into award shows.
Look at us. Look at that.
Oh, Roof Daddy. But anything else happening this weekend you're looking forward to then?
No. I'm looking forward to 2 weekends.
The weather's going to be a little warmer. We're looking at 60 degrees potentially. So I'm excited for that.
I am excited for that. I am going to Nashville this weekend.
Ooh.
But it's not
for funsies.
It's not a fun trip.
Movers are us, Xavier's company.
Just go. It's a one-day trip. Going there, going back, and then the weekend following will be your bachelor party.
Oh.
Fun with friends.
Fun with friends.
Friends with fun.
Friends have the fun. Yeah, it would be good times.
Matt, it's always good to see Matt come in town.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I have a couple gigs this weekend, so that's only things I'm looking forward to, getting out and playing some music.
Any outdoor gigs?
No, not that time of year.
Well, I'm just saying, like, maybe open the roof up.
Blow the roof off the place.
Open the windows up, dude. It's going to be in the 50s.
Well, on Saturday, we're playing at the Midwestern, and the way that their place is kind of set up is it's almost like an outdoor area. It's like a patio, but they close off the back side of it with a thing during the winter, like a tarp, So I don't know.
We went there to see you.
Yeah, it was me.
It was you all along.
So thanks for tuning in this week, guys, and we look forward to next week.
Love you guys.